So this afternoon, we are absolutely delighted to welcome Tyrone Brooks, the Artistic Director of Tallahassee Ballet, and to our conversation, Global Conversations, Navigating Difficult Times. Mr. Brooks, we are so excited to have you with us from Tallahassee. So thank you.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you found yourself in Tallahassee.
Well, I'm originally from Hampton, Virginia. After high school, I went to New York on full scholarship for Dance Theatre of Harlem for the summer. And I was asked to return for the fall. But prior to that, after high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I, of course, like most high school graduates do, they start looking for jobs. So I auditioned for Busch Gardens. And I got the job as a clogger.
No way.
I was a clogger. I got the job. I was excited. About 2 weeks later, I got the confirmation letter from Dance Theatre of Harlem saying I was accepted to the summer program on full scholarship. So, you know, I chose door number one. So off to New York I went, and during that time, it was an 8-week program. And the company was in Australia at the Opera House at the moment. So I returned during the fall, and during that time, some of the dancers were leaving the company, and Mr. Mitchell wanted the strongest male dancers from the school to learn a particular ballet called Greenings, which is by European choreographer Glenn Tetley. And I was one of those guys that learned the role. Mr. Tetley came in, and we auditioned for the role, and he chose me, and a couple of weeks later, I was on tour.
So boom, boom, boom.
Just like that. Timing.
Oh, wow. So from high school to Busch Gardens to clogging, which is hysterical, to you get an opportunity to go to New York, to you learn a role, to you're chosen, and then off you go?
Off I go. But my first European tour was during the time of Lady Di's wedding. Part of that tour, we were in Israel as well, and Italy. So that was my very first European tour. So being at such a young age, I was so excited and, you know, bug eyes and looking at everything. And it was just incredible and such a blessing to start seeing the world at such a young age and not really understanding it at the moment, but I soaked everything in. And Mr. Mitchell, what he always did when we went on tour, especially in Europe, we had a day of culture. And he said, you all could shop later, but we're going to learn the culture of each place that we go.
That's so fantastic.
Either we did a museum or someone came to the theater to speak with us, or we did a tour of some sort, but he made it very clear he wanted us to be very diverse and knowledgeable in regards to all the places that we've been to.
It's interesting. So you became a cultural ambassador. I can't imagine a better education. Yeah. I mean, real life education and how to handle yourself in a social setting, how to represent the company, et cetera, at a very young age.
Yes, you know, and absolutely, you know, and it started also in the studio because he would bring people in to do certain projects with the company. One year he brought in Max Cosmetics to show us how to put on our makeup because, you know, Dance Theatre of Harlem was the only African-American ballet company. We were all different shades. And so we had these people come in and show us how to put on our makeup that was good for our skin tone.
And I've been seeing and reading a lot about the issues around, you know, flesh-colored tights, which may be my flesh color, but they're certainly not your flesh color, and, you know, makeup, et cetera, et cetera. It's a little bit shocking that we're still talking about that nowadays, but you know, I'm glad it's being addressed. I'm glad Block and some of the other shoemakers are finally responding. You sound like you really revered Mr. Mitchell's style of running a company. Have you used some of that, brought that with you now that you're running a company?
I am him 100%. I catch myself sometimes and I say, I have to channel my Mr. Mitchell. You know, what would he do? And because, you know, at a young age, a lot of things, of course, you don't understand, but you realize it now. And you understand, you so appreciate that incredible foundation in which he bestowed on all of us because we were his children. We were young. He made it very clear we had to speak well, we had to dress well because not so much, I mean, you have people of color and you have the name Harlem. Dance Theatre of Harlem, and he used to say, you hear the word Harlem, it's a magical word. So people expect the negative. But when you see these dancers, they're dressed well, they're very well spoken, they're educated, and they're surprised. And that goes back to one of the reasons why he started the Dance Theatre of Harlem. It's not the community, it's what you do with what's in the community. So if it can happen in Harlem, it can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter, you know, your zip code, the language that you speak, or the color of your skin. But he gave us all opportunity, and I do stress that. And I'm very much like him because of him. And this is what I portray to my dancers as far as being a positive role model, that you're representing something much larger than yourself. You know, if something goes wrong, they're not going to say Mr. Jones did it. They're going to say Mr. Jones from the Tallahassee Ballet.
What really struck me is how embedded you have made the ballet in your city. It's not just something to go see and then we forget about it. It seems like you've worked very, very hard to reach out and collaborate. And it's kind of old school. It reminds me of my great-grandfather's bank in downstate Illinois, you know, that you see yourself as a member of the community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, absolutely. I am a part of the community. You have to. And this is why I said earlier in regards to, I have to make myself accessible. People are not going to come to me. I'm the new kid on the block. So there's always a question mark. What is he going to do? Who is he? Is he nice? He's a nice guy, you know? So I need to go out and shake hands, meet people, make sure I'm supporting other organizations as well, not just dance, but other organizations as well. So therefore, you develop those relationships, and it takes you so far. So when you need something, you can say, you can pick up the phone, call one person. If they can't do it, they know someone else, because you've made that personal touch, and that's so important.
I'm so impressed and so interested in this approach, because for so many people, ballet seems esoteric and other.
You know, you say ballet, it's so stiff. You know, we're told at a young age, ballet dancers, shut up and dance and listen. And all you hear is, no, that's not good enough. So you got to bring some variety. You have to make your company, your dancers feel warm, feel welcome. And most important is that they matter. So my company, they look at me like, what are you up to? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have the reputation, because they know I'll play little things with them. Like we have our ballet mistress she'll teach class, and sometimes I'll pop in or whatever. And on occasions I'll come in. I have a little pistol water gun, and I'll kind of see people and watch them flinch. You know, so I do things like that.
You talked in our prep interview a little bit about also reaching out in the community, that you had heard of a family that was in need, and instead of just, we're a ballet company, all we do is give ballet lessons, you actually went out and addressed it.
Yes, I met a very wonderful lady. She's the ex-city of Tallahassee city manager, and she contacted me, and she says, you know, I've been asked to be a team leader, and I would like you to be on my team. And she says, during these difficult times, you know, families are struggling. And she says, you know, most of us, you know, we're hurting, but we're not broken. But this family is almost there. And she was working with a social worker. And I said, I'm on board. And those things just get me going and energize me. And the family that we're living in there's 8 people in this one house. It needed a roof. And they're talking about 5 kids. So they needed, they only had one computer. And of course, you know, they were looking at the roof, trying to see if we can get that prepared. But anyway, long story short, so I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to the company. But of course, I went through my boss first just to make sure it was okay, you know, and she said, absolutely. And so I sent an email out, and the response was incredible. And we got over $500 in gift certificates, and we got 2 laptops and a tablet.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's all those good feel things that I encourage the company to do. And, you know, and I asked them, I said, what is your favorite charity? Let's choose a charity every year for us to participate. of some sort. It could be some type of walkathon, but just to say we are representing not just the Tallahassee Ballet, but these kids are learning. A couple of years ago, like Hope said, we went to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital to the pediatrics ward, and where they had an opportunity to meet with the kids, read them stories, and a lot of them had never been that up close and personal with a sick child. And it did a lot for them. That's what I talk about, social awareness.
So it sounds to me very much like you are looking at the whole person, not just at a ballet dancer and how their arabesque looks or how their turnout looks, etc.
Right, because what good are you to anyone after you leave me? I want you to be prepared to do whatever you want to do and know what it takes to do it.
Let's talk about the fact that you're in a university town, and it's got a great dance program, but what Tallahassee is mostly known for, other than being the seat of government, is its football team.
Yes.
So you have a reality that perhaps some other companies might not deal with.
Well, we schedule all of our performances around the football game. Football. We do. At one point, when we used to open our season with an evening of music and dance, we used to do 3 performances. But then we started looking at how the last performances, nothing was happening in regards to revenue, audience attendance. It's because of the football game. So now we now schedule our performances on a Thursday and a Saturday, after we look at the football schedule to see, what's best for us. But then again, too, Tallahassee is small, so therefore, the city is very much alive.
I think as a survival strategy, but also it sounds like part of your ethos, almost your sort of morals, are that you really reach out to collaborate. You mentioned Links and some other groups, and that collaboration sounds like you bring it in. Talk a little bit about the gospel choir you brought in.
Well, and I got that idea because there's a book called Invitation to the Party, and it's by Donna Walker-Kuhn, good friend of mine. She used to be Mr. Mitchell's assistant, and I've always been intrigued by that title. And last year or 2 years ago, I said, how can I make this happen? And it happened because of the climate. There's so much going on, and I said we need a feel-good performance. We need a performance where everyone can really come together under one umbrella and just smile and have warm hearts. So I said, okay, invitation to the party. I said, the Tallahassee Ballet is having a party and you're invited. So I spoke with Donna, and she says, not a problem, use anything from the book as you want. So I said, you know what, let's really make this diverse, since I'm really on this thing as far as diversity, building audience development. So I reached out to Bethel AME Choir, and they jumped right on it. And so on that program, we would have gospel, jazz, neoclassical, some Caribbean, as far as music. And also, I said, okay, something's missing. It was the opera component. So I said, okay, perfect. So I chose O Mia Bambino Caro, which is a famous aria, Puccini. And I said, that's perfect. And I said, with that, I'll dedicate that particular moment to the late Jesse Norman.
Oh, how lovely.
So therefore, it's something in there for everyone.
Yeah, it's kind of like appetizers or a tapas. If you don't
you just took the first out of my mouth.
We're going to move to the next thing. But also, to your point about you going to Europe, it's introducing audiences to quite a bit of different tastes. When we talked about that a little bit earlier, though, I was fascinated. You said there are a number of long-time patrons of Tallahassee Ballet who expect the classics. And you talked, I thought, very wisely about bringing your audiences along and that being part of your job. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you got to win their trust. Because like I said, the new kid on the block, you don't know what he's going to do. So you have to do things in baby steps. And the more you do things in baby steps and you hear, I hear everything what's being said, people are appreciative and they like change, but you have to do it gradually. And you have to also think about what really inspires them. So when I plan my season, also think about music. Two years ago, we did an evening. It was a Gershwin and Bernstein. Who doesn't love Gershwin and Bernstein? I tried to get some of the dance music from a West Side Story, but we couldn't do it because they wouldn't cut it up the way I wanted them to. Okay. So thinking about what's appealing to everyone is so important. It's not just about me, it's our constituents. At the same time, too, it's also audience development.
It's hugely audience development.
Yeah.
I get quite distressed. I sometimes feel like ballet wants to drive itself off a cliff because people program over the heads of the audiences to impress each other. They're not.
Thank you. And sometimes things are just so deep. I don't want to go to me personally, I don't want to go to the ballet and have to figure out what's going on. I really don't. You know, it's like, give me some beautiful music and movement and let me enjoy that. You know, that's my therapy.
We talked about bringing your audiences along, but talk about bringing your dancers along a little bit.
Well, yes, every year I have to look at what we have, some that are graduating because this company consists of high school and a few college. So therefore I have to look what we have for the next season. Although the wheels are rolling in my head and I'm planning, but also think about what's good for them, what's going to also challenge them. And who do I want to bring in that I know that personality-wise are great. And I have a lot of great friends that are choreographers, but their personality would not fit with my dancers. Okay. And it's best that they and I stay good friends and they, admire the company from afar.
So you have, you are our only gentleman so far. So you are our inaugural male guest. And part of the reason I did that was because of your approach, the sort of humanity of it. You also have a female resident choreographer, and yes. It feels like you're surrounding yourself with interesting, strong women. Can you talk a little bit about ballet and gender and other issues around diversity, if you want, where you think ballet could and needs to change?
Well, it has to start with the person. It has to start with dialogue. It has to start with the artistic director and the board of directors relationship, because they have to be able to go out and shout and praise the organization and the dancers like I do, so that we're all on the same page. Because if we're not connected, there's a problem there. We have to move with the time. There's a lot of opportunity that's out there. And unfortunately, we're not in a large city. So we're kind of, a whisper. And I don't want us to be a whisper. I want us to be a shout and say, oh, have you heard about that company in Tallahassee?
I think we need a lot more shouts from smaller cities, smaller towns where really interesting things are going on. I think part of the reason that ballet kind of gets very boring at certain points is that for a creative industry, it's not all that creative. And I know there's a lot of economic pressure to produce sure winners.
Well, I also think too, a lot of companies try to Mickey Mouse. I don't need to do 15 balancing ballets. I don't have to be a part of the norm. Why not create the norm? This is what we do.
And there you go.
And the same thing as far as when I'm choosing dancers. I don't want an entire company of hopes, because everybody brings something special to the table.
Let us talk a little bit about your background, your training, your experiences. I mean, it sounds like Mr. Mitchell really laid down an amazing foundation. Are there any particular experiences, skills, et cetera, that you think are critical to your success as an artistic director?
Patience.
Okay.
Patience and being a people person and being a social worker. And I say that a close friend of mine said to me years ago, she says, Tyrone, we're social workers. And I was like, social workers. And then now I get it, because you have so many personalities that you're dealing with. You have the students, you have the parents. You can't just be on one level. You have to really be able to be sympathetic to each dancer, each family, and understand where they're coming from. And for the most part, when dancers or parents are script, they just want to be heard. You have to have that type of understanding. You know, it's not always easy, but you have to listen. That's all people want.
For the most part, I agree with you. I think everybody wants to be heard. So when we were getting ready for this interview, one of the things that I thought was so lovely is you turned around and looked at the pictures of the people behind you that I still see there. And you said, this is why I do my job. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, this is my inspiration. I walk in my office and I see these photographs, you know, and I have plenty of more. And it reminds me of keeping my eyes on the prize, because we all know, you know, I do administrative things as well. And not every day is great. And some days I've come here and I've had the only meltdown. And I'm like, okay, you've had that. And I look around, I'm like, this is why I do this. And I go into the studio and there's always something that hits me the perfect time and say, this is why you do this.
Let's talk about the future, next season, what you're hoping for. How does it look in the middle of all this uncertainty?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to do an invitation to the party. So I'm not going to throw that out. We're gonna still do it because there was so much excitement behind it, and it has to happen. It's gonna happen. You know, like I said, I told the company, I sent them a letter. Every 2 weeks, I send them a little note, just saying hello, something, and I just said, you know, we have to remain optimistic.
Can we do the lightning round, the fun part, for a little bit?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. Your favorite dance memory?
At the Salzburg Festival, we did a Equus choreographed by Domi Ryder-Sofer to a 180-piece orchestra.
Okay, after that, your favorite ballet. Got to pick something different.
George Balanchine's Allegro Brillante.
Okay, switching it out. Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Anything in particular? We're going right to guilty pleasure. Do you have any?
Chocolate.
There we go.
Chocolate.
Broadway or West End?
Broadway.
Dream travel destination post-pandemic?
Balletto, Italy.
Nice. For the festival or just to be there?
Just to be there. Didn't go to Capri, the island.
Beach or mountain?
Beach. I don't like bugs. I don't do bugs.
Graham or Cunningham, rehearsal or performance?
Graham.
Rubies, emeralds, or diamonds? To dance, to watch, whatever you like.
I like some rubies. That's my birthstone. This month.
La Bayadere, Romeo, Juliet, something else?
Romeo and Juliet, pas de deux.
Let's finish up with what makes you hopeful for the future, what the challenges are, where you'd like to see the industry go. Just any other final thoughts you want to give us.
I think we just can't give up on young people. We have to continue to encourage them because they look up to us. We have to be positive role models. We have to listen to them.
Thank you, Tyrone Brooks, for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime.
We will see each other in person at some point.
Okay.